What's up? I'm just randomly rambling. I wanted to talk about how sometimes when we listen to our thoughts, which are inherently meaningless, we fall into the trap of eternal suffering. And I was just starting to listen to Eckhart Tolle's video, and something just struck in me, and I was like, I need to talk about this because I have experienced this quite a lot in my life. The point here is that I've spoken quite a few times about how I have this habit of daydreaming, and that is just a way for me to cope from a reality that I do not like or still don't fully like, right? And my body just automatically goes into that mode of visualizing and constantly deriving joy from my thoughts, which is very, very sad. But it happens, there is no judgment behind it. The thing is that that is why I suffer, and I feel that is why most people suffer, because there is a disconnect between what's real and what's desired. What I daydream about is something that I wish my life was like. I hope my life was like that, but it's not. So when I stop daydreaming, when I inevitably have to come down to my actual reality, I get super disappointed. I get resistant. I get very irritated. I get annoyed, right? I feel very sad. I feel very bad that my life is like this and I hate it. And because of that, I daydream even more because it's like that's the only way for me to feel better, right? How else will I make myself feel better? I mean, my daydreams are at least keeping me happy. I'm able to visualize so much stuff that is not real at all. So that's a different kind of delusion, right? And no judgment. I know that a lot of people daydream and some people use it to their advantage, but for me, there was no advantage. I was completely using it to cope from a reality that I fully had the power to fix. I could have taken steps to become a better version of myself. At the time, I didn't know about it, but now I do. And the problem is that even now, I am resorting to daydreaming simply because I'm used to it. I'm not doing it because I want to. I'm doing it because it's on autopilot. And the thing is that in order to make something else autopilot, a good habit autopilot, I'll have to do that habit repeatedly. It's just the basis of everything, consistency, right? But I'm not putting in the reps because it's just way too convenient. And with everything going on in my life, I feel like I've kind of just been a little meaner to myself, a little hard on myself. And when I'm soft on myself, I'm just like, I let things go. I'm like, okay, yeah, like, just let it be. But that's not how it should be, right? That's not the way. I have to be neutral when it comes to these things. Okay, by the way, if you can hear uncles in the background, there are uncles sitting in front of me, so apologies for that. But the point is that Eckhart talks heavily about this, that when you accept the present moment for what it is, ironically, that's when you make changes, as in do something about it. That's when you think of maybe trying to change something in your life. And of course, when you keep putting in the reps, because consistency is the key to everything, life changes. Everything changes because what shifts is not your reality inherently, it's you. Your identity changes, therefore, it reflects in your physical world. And the point that I'm trying to make is, which is something that I'm also aware of pretty well, is that the more I daydream, the more I'm falling into the trap of not being able to change my reality. And again, it's not hindering my ability, it's only hindering my willingness. The more I daydream, the more intolerant I'm becoming to actually taking the steps to change who I am. And tolerance is everything. You have to build tolerance to hard things so that they stop feeling hard, because they're not inherently hard or easy. It's just that there's one thing that you're used to, which is why it seems easy, and the other thing you're not used to, which is why it seems hard. But the more you do the other thing, that starts seeming easy, because that's how life is. There is no such thing as good, bad, black, white, you know, hard or easy. It just is. And it's just a matter of reps. It's just a matter of how willing you are to put in the reps. Because there's this one thing that Alex Hormozy and Leila Hormozy have said quite a lot in their videos, that when in doubt, stack reps and be so fucking crazy with the volume that it's unreasonable and unrealistic for you to fail. Because truly, life does not reward emotions, it does not reward people who talk about their goals. It truly rewards action, it truly rewards consistency. And action and consistency are pretty much the same thing. You take action and you repeatedly take action, and it changes your life because it changes who you are. And that is why I was thinking of James Clear's quote that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. If you, and it, again, this is all for me, you cannot keep talking about your goals and keep remembering your goals as in you've just written a list of a bunch of things and that's that. You have to take steps. And that is what I think every successful person who's either written a book, who has a podcast, who goes on talk shows, who, conducts these seminars, that is what they're talking about. That you have to take action. There is no other way. And I think that is the matrix that we all need to escape from, because yeah, it's been a long time coming. And yeah, so basically, coming back to Eckhart's point, from what I've watched in his videos and from what I've read in his book, The Power of Now, which I haven't really completed. I've tried to read it like 7 times, but always by the time I reach page 30 or 40, I'm just like, it's such a heavy book, I need some time. And yeah, but I think at some point in life, I will read the book. It just makes you think, that's the thing, it just always makes you think. But the point here is that suffering is only caused by the expectation of what life should be rather than accepting what life is. Because the biggest paradox is that once you accept what life is, inevitably you will do something about it. You will take steps to change whatever you can, whatever's in your hands, whatever control you have, you will exercise it because of the amount of agony you're experiencing currently. But if you escape through your daydreams or through thinking, and people have many other ways to escape, right? Substance abuse, and I'm not even going to get into it, but you know what I mean. It's only going to temporarily make you happy because it's a coping mechanism. You might not say it out loud, but you know it because you're acting on that. And it's not going to last. And now that we're speaking of ironies, whenever I daydream and whenever I come back to like the present moment, I feel so much worse. I feel 10 times worse because in the moment it feels good. It's temporary pleasure, but it's kind of like permanent pain because it's like all that time that I wasted daydreaming, I could have done something about my current life because that would have actually led to some results. And this is why it's important to be result focused rather than process focused, because I think half of the time, 90% of the people, including myself, we don't do something is because we just dread the process of doing it. But what we don't realize is that by the time we're done with the so-called process, we'd have results that we want. Like I was dreading meal prepping my food for the last 1 week, but finally on Saturday I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go down, I'm gonna take out my chicken, I'm gonna defrost it, and I'm gonna meal prep. And I did, and now I feel so much better. And I was like, whenever I come back from uni, all I have to do is heat it up. And I think this is what we don't realize, that if we focus on the process that, oh my god, I have to take out these ingredients and I have to clean my utensils and this, that, blah, blah, of course we would not feel like doing something. Either way, I feel like even if we are result focused, we would not feel like doing it because it's work. But at the same time, once we get used to that delayed gratification, those guaranteed results of doing the thing, and that can only be achieved through consistency. So obviously it goes without saying that you'll have to put in those reps initially with no reward, because the reward just comes right, like it just comes all at once. You will feel nothing and all of a sudden you'll feel everything. That's what happened when I lost a lot of fat as well. I did not see any results for 65-70 days, but by the 75th day, which is so like crazy, right? My clothes were loose and I felt better. People around me were complimenting me, and it just happens all at once. So do you think that something changed in those 5 days? No, it didn't. It was all those 65 to 70 days that I put in the reps, that I ate in a deficit, that I went for walks, that I watched my water intake, that I watched my sleep schedule. It was all of that. It's like almost like chopping a tree and you're using that axe. Obviously the tree is not going to fall off just after like 100 times of you trying to chop it with an axe. You'll have to put in a lot of reps, right? But once it does fall down, was it like the last chop? No, it wasn't. It was the first chop. It started there. So truly, it's not the one thing that makes a difference. It's just the cumulative of everything that you've done in the last days, weeks, and months. That's how it is. So I completely stand by the fact that consistency is key, and there is no fucking doubt about that in my mind. I completely agree with it, and this entire video is like just all over the place. But yes, back to Ekhart's point, the thing is, the more you accept reality the way it is right now, no matter how much it hurts, because of course it hurts. Not only does the reality inherently hurt, but the fact that you've daydreamt for so long and now you're coming back to your senses, you're essentially coming back to Earth, the 3 dimensions. It's obviously going to feel uncomfortable because it's like, oh my god, now I don't even have an escape. So, like, what the fuck do I do? So, you are handling two pains at the same time. Handle that pain. And I'm not saying that just resist it, that, oh, it's not hurting, it's not hurting. Just sit with it. Sit with it, because you'll realize that it always passes. And that is something that I did not know at the time. I sat with it and I realized, holy crap, it did take 15 minutes for my chest to feel lighter, but it did feel light. And then the more I did it, it barely took minutes, it took seconds. And then it became autopilot. But right now, I have become intolerant to it again. It takes time and it makes me sad. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And all the things that I'm preaching right now, I'm not doing myself either. And it hurts. It really hurts a lot. So I think this is the season where we're supposed to give ourselves a lot of grace, a lot of non-judgmental, unconditional, positive regard, because that's what we deserve. And I'm not saying that in the name of non-judgment, we just completely let ourselves go and just make bad decisions. That's not what I mean at all. But just holding ourselves accountable, but in a very polite and loving way, because that's what we deserve. Suffering is never ending. I got a job and I don't exactly love it, but then I'm suffering in that area, that I want a better job. And once I get a better job, I'll probably look for money, so it's like I want more money. So it's like it's a never ending cycle. But once you accept that, yeah, it is what it is, you'll just take more steps eventually to get to that point. And yeah, something better won't even look like better to you, because you will be much more satisfied with what you have. So let's not be in the season of constantly chasing, because that is what makes things difficult for us. Let's not chase all the time. Let's for a while sit with what is and see how life goes. So yeah,